Red Bull are thriving in the championship. Everything is going according to plan. But there seem to be some cracks that have been created last year. Could this mean that we're about to see changes in a winning team? Rumours are going around the paddock that Christian Horner and Helmut Marko are done with Sergio Perez's whining about his chances. This has even sparked the rumour that we might see Daniel Ricciardo back in the Red Bull as early as this summer. Could you see this happening? Could this be one of the craziest swaps ever in Formula 1? To send a winning driver away because he's hurting Boy Wonder? Let's find out. Daniel Ricciardo is now enjoying his time away from the F1 grid, but he hopes to return in 2024. But Daniel Ricciardo has stated that he will be able to return to the Formula 1 grid next year, adding that he still has unfinished business in the sport. But this could be as soon as next summer. Ricciardo lost his seat with McLaren after a dismal 2022 season, and with no other viable racing seats available for 2023, he instead took a reserve driver job with Red Bull, for whom he raced with between 2014 and 2018, winning 7 Grand Prix. Ricciardo is not combining his Red Bull reserve responsibilities with any other racing, and the Australian claims he is enjoying his forced hiatus from Formula 1. "I'll be ready to put myself back in a position to be on the grid next year," Ricciardo said. "I am staying in shape, and I'm giving myself a bit of mental timeout. I love playing sports, I love being active, so I haven't allowed myself to get too out of shape. I am really enjoying this year, and I think I will continue to enjoy it. But by next year, I think I'll certainly be eager to get back on the grid and compete." It's safe to say that Ricciardo is eager to get back into the game. Much of Ricciardo's training has been limited to the Red Bull simulator due to F1's constraints on in-season testing, but the Australian added that he was poised to get behind the wheel for real in July. Could this be the precedent for an upcoming swap? "I feel like there's still some unfinished business. I can't just continue to do the simulator," said Ricciardo. "I'm going to jump in the car in July, so only a couple of months away, and I'll get back behind the wheel. And I'm sure that it will also really stimulate me and give me all those feelings back. I'm going to naturally want to put a bit of pressure on myself for that and try to remind the team that I can still do it, and we'll see where it goes." Would you like to see Daniel Ricciardo back at Red Bull? And could you see this happening in the summer? Comment your thoughts down below. The potential swap has only come to light due to the fact that the current drivers are battling each other very hard and leaving no room for error, instead of joining forces to secure the titles. This has caused Helmut Marko to warn Verstappen and Perez. It would be very stupid. During a late duel, both Red Bull drivers raced cleanly on the way to their 4th 1-2 finish of the season in the Miami Grand Prix. Red Bull Motorsport advisor Helmut Marko has cautioned Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez that colliding in their title duel would be very stupid. Dutchman Verstappen won the Miami Grand Prix after using an unconventional strategy to advance from 9th on the grid, passing teammate Perez on lap 48 of 57. Despite the acknowledged friction inside the Red Bull camp since last year's race in Brazil, the racing between the two drivers was maintained clean on the road to a 4th 1-2 result in 5 races. "They are both mature enough to fight normally, especially with such a dominant car," Marko said. "It would be very stupid to hit each other, and Checo, Perez, also knew at that moment that Max had much better tyres." Verstappen's victory was based on his exceptional performance on worn hard tyres around the race's middle, with Perez only able to match his teammate on a pair of new hards. "This was an incredible race by Max," Marko remarked. "He was fast but also kept an eye on his tyres. That he still set the fastest lap time on the penultimate lap of his hard tyre stint was impressive." Excluding that little moment in qualifying on Saturday, where Verstappen aborted his effort after running wide, this was one of Max's best performances. "We were still a little worried beforehand in case there was a safety car, but that was not the case. Once he drove in the clear, Max was unstoppable." And Verstappen thinks so the same as he issues a warning shot to Perez, saying, "I always feel unbeatable." Max Verstappen feels his extended run on hard tyres was vital to his ultimate victory in Sunday's Miami Grand Prix, despite starting 9th. As Verstappen's victory was primarily dependent on his ability to manage his tyres and continue to lap swiftly, and he expressed satisfaction with how his long stint went. "It was better than expected, I guess," Verstappen said. "It was just really trying to understand a bit how they would last in the beginning or the middle of that stint. I was not sure. That's why probably I was a bit slower than I could have been, but that also made me go faster. So that's where I could extend my gap again. And that, of course, made my race, because once I made the pit stop, I was only 1.5 seconds behind Perez, and with a fresher compound, of course you can pass. During his tenure in F1, Perez developed a reputation for being exceptionally adept at controlling his tyres, earning himself the moniker tyre whisperer from some. Verstappen, on the other hand, questioned the validity of that theory, claiming that he had always been adept at controlling the life of his tyres during a stint. "People say that, but I never really understood why," said Verstappen. "I think I've always been very good on tyres, but it's very small margins. But this has already been a factor in the last few years, where if you look after your tyres well, some races it works out a bit better than others." Verstappen had some frightening remarks for any possible competitors seeking for a breach in the Dutchman's defences after coming through to win impressively from 9th on the grid and increase his lead in the Drivers' Championship. "I always feel unbeatable," Verstappen said. "But sometimes other people also have a really good day, and they can be close to you or match you and be ahead of you. What is important is to try and be close to 100% perfect every single time. Saturday wasn't perfect, so overall, this weekend wasn't perfect. But it's a long season, and I try to be as close to perfect as possible." What are your thoughts on the current situation at Red Bull? Is this something they can manage, or will Red Bull be pressed into choosing one of their current drivers? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. But for now, Red Bull's supremacy in their current form and lineup is humiliating for F1 competitors, according to Aston Martin team ambassador Pedro Della Rosa. The win in Miami delivered Red Bull's 4th 1-2 finish of the season, after only 5 races, with Perez's troubles in the Australian Grand Prix qualifying the sole blemish on the record. The dominant quality of the victory over the rest of the field has led to speculation that the Milton Keynes-based team may win every race this season, expanding its lead over the rest of the field over the 205-point gap to Ferrari last year. "I think everyone that has been in F1 for a long time realizes how tough it is to win," former driver Della Rosa told the F1 Nation podcast. "You should always be extremely proud of every victory, or every 1-2 in Red Bull's case. They should be celebrated in a special manner, because you never know when the next one is going to come around. We're all here to stop this winning streak. It is very nice to see Red Bull celebrating, but deep in my heart, it's also humiliating in a way, how they continuously celebrate 1-2s, and we're not able to stop them. I'm talking about the whole F1 grid, not only about Aston Martin. What do you think? Could you see Red Bull winning every race this season? But what if the team doesn't change? Do you see both drivers racing deep into their 30s? As Verstappen has said multiple times that he's done with all the changes and won't drive beyond 2028. But Horner has taken the time to respond to Verstappen's F1 retirement threat. The Red Bull driver has hinted that he may leave Formula 1 when his contract expires in 2028. The world champion has grown upset with the changes to Grand Prix weekends, such as the addition of sprint events and the expansion of the calendar. He has indicated that he may leave when his current Red Bull contract expires at the conclusion of the 2028 season, with Horner adding it was a good thing that drivers could express their views on the direction of F1. Well, thankfully, his contract has many years to run on it, so we don't see that as an imminent risk, Horner said of Verstappen's threats to resign. But, of course he has an opinion on it, and he'll always speak openly on it and voice his opinion. And I think that it's so hard to look too far down the road. Did Fernando Alonso think he'd be racing at 42? Probably not. I mean, Lewis Hamilton is in his latter 30s. So the future is just so difficult to predict. But I think it's great that drivers do have opinions, and they don't just become stereotypes. Reigning 2-time world champion Verstappen is fighting for a 3rd straight title next to Sergio Perez in the sister Red Bull, who is off to his greatest start to an F1 season ever, with 2 victories, 2 seconds and a 5th place finish from the first 5 races, adding a sprint triumph in Azerbaijan. Horner, speaking before Verstappen's 3rd victory of the season in Miami, believes the title fight will be a marathon, but cautioned that Mercedes and Ferrari might cut the gap. Checo's had a fantastic start to the season, so he started the season stronger than he's ever done, said Horner. And I think that, as we all know, confidence is a big thing in any sport, and Checo's confidence is sky high, and this championship is going to be a marathon, and there'll be highs and lows to it along the way. His challenge, and the challenge for both drivers, is maintaining the consistency. And for sure, we're going to see Mercedes turn up, and Ferrari at some point, so it won't just be about our drivers. What do you think? Will we see Verstappen Perez line up in the years to come? Or are we going to see some new drivers in the upcoming years? Maybe we'll see Ricciardo back on the grid for Red Bull again soon. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.